live. So today, if I can get this tripod to cooperate, today we're making some biscotti. I make my mom biscotti on a pretty regular basis because I made it for her one time for Mother's Day, and then since then I've been her biscotti maker. She loves to have it with coffee every day. So um, today I'm prepping biscotti, so we're not going to see like the full finished product, but I'll make sure to post pictures later. So we have 6 cups of flour right here, and then we have 5 teaspoons of baking powder. So we're adding to that. Let's get out of the bowl. And then about 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I haven't made a full tutorial video on this because I've been kind of playing around with the recipe. But I think at some point I do want to make a full tutorial of this recipe. But for today, we're just working on prepping our next batch, or double. This is like a double batch, basically. It makes quite a bit. Give that a light little mix. Could have grabbed a slightly bigger bowl, but oh well. Okay. Just gonna mix those dry ingredients together. Okay. And then we have 2 sticks of unsalted butter. And then we're going to that add 2 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. So line up my next ingredient steps. Okay. So, and let me know if you can hear me. I'm trying out using these little headphone things that when I've done like a live class before, it helps hear me a little bit better. So let me know that you can hear me. Okay. So I'm going to start to mix this together until it gets nice and creamy. A little bit cold in here, so the butter is a little bit firm, but I always kind of prefer to mix in firm butter instead of kind of melted butter, or like softened butter, if you will. It takes a little while to mix it together, but make sure it incorporates really nicely. I give it a quick little mix with my spatula. It has some sugar kind of flying out of the bowl at one point. Okay. Looking pretty good. The butter is definitely getting mixed in there. getting closer. This doesn't need to be super creamy, like we're not making buttercream, so we don't need it to be super fluffy and mixed for like 10 minutes, but we just want to make sure it does get that creamy stage. At this point, I'm going to toss in 4 teaspoons of vanilla. I want that to get a little bit more creamy before we add our eggs, which is our next step. There we go. It's getting closer to what I want to see before we start mixing our eggs. So we'll mix with our spatula, scrape on the sides of the bowl. All right, so we could go for a little bit longer, but sometimes I stop here. So we're just going to start adding our eggs, and we add them one at a time. A little bit of background on my mixer here. Okay. And just one egg, and mix that in. Actually, for this part, I'm going to do the trick to stay. To get it to stay, I like being able to turn the bowl, but for this part, we're going to use this little like drippy thing that you can use to like open jars and stuff, but it also works really, really well to pop under a bowl like this to keep it in place while you're mixing. Add our next egg. So we're not mixing too much. We're not trying to whip a bunch of air into these eggs. So we're just kind of doing one at a time just until it's incorporated. Then we add our next one. That's our 5th and final egg. Okay. Oops, around here. Hello, Leah. Thank you so much for joining. Happy Friday. I hope you're doing well. Your January is going good. I can't believe it's already halfway through the month. I feel like it's already gone by so fast. Scrape down the bowl. It looks a little funny, like not fully mixed together, but I feel like I've had that happen before. And it comes together in the dough. So it still works out, even though it might look a little funny. Happy Friday. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next step, I'm just going to scrape down so we don't have extra batter on our spatula. Okay. And then we're going to add in our flour mixture. I'm going to consult my notes just to make sure. Da, 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 da. I'm going to add it in 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 additions, basically. So I'm not adding in everything at once, but I'm going to start to stir it in or fold it in. So we could use the mixer for this, but when it comes to like the flour, unless you like have this cover or something that can kind of puff up on you, and I just like the control of mixing, like hand mixing it. So that's why I'm going with this route. I could definitely try this in my stand mixer though. That would be a little bit like a little assistant in the kitchen. Scooping down all of our flour so we don't have too much excess left over. I'm gonna add the rest of our flour mixture here. Okay. And I think if this bowl is actually big enough, or if I should grab my biggest one. Probably the biggest one. I think this is probably not going to work like I want it to when I'm actually mixing in our additions. Pardon me, a sip of drink. Okay. Continue mixing in our flour. And sometimes I feel like it's a little bit hard to get it to mix in all of the way. So sometimes I actually like with very, very clean hands, mix it in, or finish mixing with my hands. And I just clean it very, very well. And or I wear gloves if I have like nail polish. Just to make sure nothing gets in there. Stir as much as I can, and then just to finish it off. So we want it to just come together. Just like if you're making cake or cookies, you don't want to mix the flour too much, or else it has, develops too much gluten. And we want that for breads and pizza doughs and all that kind of stuff, not for our nice baked good bread. Keep scraping down the bowl. Right, and before I go any further, I'm going to grab that bigger bowl really quick so I have it on hand. So we're doing 2 flavors, so we're going to split it in half. So, okay, let's see. I think at this point, yeah, I'm thinking from here, I'm going to have my sheet pans ready to go. And wash my hands very, very well, and then I can finish mixing everything together. Before I do that, though, here are my mix-in bowls. I have them already ready to go. Usually I do a white chocolate macadamia and then a white chocolate or caramel chips, if I can find those, toasted coconuts. So this one is actually a mixture of all of those flavors. So we have two-thirds cup of white chocolate, 2/3 cup of chopped macadamia nuts, and 2/3 cup of toasted coconuts. So I combined those because I wanted to try a new flavor today. So this one, basically, I do about 2 cups of additions or mix-ins. And my mom is not the biggest chocolate fan, but she likes white chocolate with like nuts or fruits or something like that. So this one is a cup of toffee bits as well as a cup of the white chocolate as well, which is kind of cool because when you bake the biscotti, because it's a double bake, it actually does caramelize a little bit. Um, so I always like the way that that turns out. But if I can find the caramel chips, I do try and eat those. Okay, so barely washing the hands. Okay, like I said, we're going to finish mixing this together. And let's take off all the excess here. Let me know what you guys think if you want to see a few more baking lives, especially while the weather is cool. Definitely during summer, we're not doing any of those because it gets way too hot. But when it's cooler like this, it might be kind of fun to try out some more baking stuff. And this one actually kind of fits with our theme of our shorts this week, where food gifting type stuff. This is, like I said, the I made as a gift for my mom for Mother's Day earlier. I was gonna say this year, in 2024, last year. I made her biscotti for the first time, and since then she's been having me make biscotti for her because she loves it so much. So she's doesn't have to buy it from the store. I can customize her flavors, and she loves white chocolate macadamia nut cookies. So I figured that that would be a good one to try out, and that's one of her top favorites for sure. So I'm just trying to finish mixing this flour in here, just until we see everything incorporated. Then we can divide and mix our mix-ins into everything. That sounds kind of funny, mix-ins. Just trying to put everything on the bottom here. Like I said, we either thoroughly wash our hands or I make sure I use a nice clean glove, like a nitrile glove, if I have like nail polish on. So you can finish mixing with like the spatula or the mixer, but this dough gets pretty thick, so I don't want to test my mixer because I have had experience with breaking a couple mixers before. But specifically, that was always when I would make Swiss meringue buttercream. So I've learned that the stand mixer is the only one that can handle Swiss meringue buttercream. It gets too thick, and yeah, mixers did not like that very much. So ever since then, if I have a really thick dough or something like that, I'm like, I would rather mix it by hand, mix it with a spatula, anything else. So I just didn't want another mixer to go out. Oh, a piece of dough fly past me. Okay, I think it's a very sticky though, but it's gonna work out. Okay, just scrape down the hands here. Let's try to get as much of this off as possible. And like I said, I typically do more like no bake stuff for lives, but if you want to see a little bit more baking stuff while the weather is nice and cool and cooperative, um, let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. Okay, let's go back a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to divide this evenly in half. You could weigh it to be more accurate, but I usually just eyeball. I'm just gonna go by what seems like it's good. Oh, like I said, it's a very, very thick dough. Okay, I think a little bit more. trying to make it even. Sometimes I like pick up both balls of dough and see if it feels like, oh, that's definitely more in here. Okay. I just put it in. There's a little bit back in here, and then should be pretty good. Okay. So then I'm gonna start to mix in. If there's like any nut allergies or anything, then obviously want to mix them separately. But I just like to put together the doughs. Like if you're just doing one big batch, like one flavor, then you can actually do the mix-ins while you're doing the flour. That would actually be more recommended, kind of like when you're making cookies, like chocolate chip cookies or something. Then mixing them in with the flour will help make sure that there's less mixing, less gluten development, so a softer product. But with this, because I want to do two flavors, that's why I want to make sure I just mix until the flour is no longer visible, and then we can add our mix-ins in really quick. But in terms of adding something like both of these have nuts, so I'm not really worried about like mixing and then like not washing my hands in between. I can just go to mix the next one right after. But again, if you're mixing something with nuts and something without nuts, mix the one without nuts first, and then you can go to that one. So just in case. Okay, so we're gonna add in, this is that white chocolate, toasted coconut, and macadamia mixture. Set the other one to the side. And then we're just going to try to mix these as thoroughly as possible. So we want a little bit of everything in our bites. And taste all of the flavors. Got some mix-ins getting stuck along the bottom here. Once again, just want to make sure until everything is just combined. Don't want to overmix. Oh, got a little clump of stuff on the bottom here. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. Looks a pretty good mixture. Okay, scrape that down. I scrape all the excess off my hand, basically. And then I think just to make sure I don't have any of like flavor crossover, I'm gonna wash my hands in between just to, but if they're similar flavors, then you can just mix them right away. Get all that down. Has anyone ever made biscotti that's here on live? Or do you enjoy biscotti, and what's your favorite flavor? Let me know in the chat. Yes, that's very sticky dough. So that's why it's like taking a little bit to get it off here, but turns out really well. I have Sugar Spun Run was the initial recipe that I was kind of playing around with. So I kind of took her recipe and then I played around with it a little bit and adapted it to be something that I actually quite enjoy. Actually, I've only tried like a couple pieces because I always give it to my mom, but yeah, I think everything turns out really well. Okay, everything's mixed together. We'll set that to the side for now and mix in our other stuff, and then we can see how to shape it. She likes mini biscotti, so I do it a little bit differently. Let me take excess fill off my hands first. Okay. So our next one, like I mentioned, is that white chocolate and toffee combo. Haven't tried the toffee version yet, so I'm really excited to see how it turns out. See, I'm gonna grab a different spoon. Scrape my handle. Okay. Okay. Hey, long time no see. I'm so glad to finally be on again. Oh, hi! It's so good to see you again. I hope you're doing well and you're having a good start to the year. I was just mentioning, I can't believe it's already halfway through the month. It feels like everything is just flying by even faster. But I hope you're doing good. We're mixing in our second set of mix-ins for our second half of dough. Get all of that stuff stuck at the bottom. Like I mentioned, we're doing this just until we get everything mixed in there. But I am very excited because we've been talking about trying this flavor for a little while. So, and of course, my mom's up for any time I make biscotti, trying new flavors that she likes, and she does love toffee. Trying to mix in white chocolate chips a little bit more evenly distributed there. Let's scrape along the bottom. Just kind of folding it in. Okay, I feel like we look pretty good. Yeah, looking pretty good. Okay, I think we're good on that one. Just a little bit scrape off this time, not as much. And before this next part, I like to spray my hands with Pam because it helps with like the non-stick spray, basically. It helps to make things less sticky as we're shaping our little logs of dough. I don't know if you can hear, but my dog is obnoxiously snoring in the next room. Okay, let me wash my hand again. A lot of crazy stuff has happened. I'm trying to start being a teacher assistant, but the process is, I'm sorry to hear that the process is annoying, but that's really awesome that you're trying to be a teacher's assistant. Good luck with that. I remember, didn't you just graduate in May, if I'm not mistaken? Let's grab my spray here. I'm cleaning off the counter so I can make some space for my. Yes, that's correct. Oh, that's right. Well, I hope you've had a good post graduation. With like I was gonna say 6 months. It's even longer than that. I hope you've had a good time, and I really wish you the best of luck with being a teacher's assistant. I'm sorry to hear it's a little bit tricky though. Okay, so we have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper, and I'm going to take our dough and we basically, for traditional biscotti, when it's like nice and long pieces, then you do like two logs and they spread out. But my mom loves like mini biscotti, so I make, instead of like two long ones, I make four little ones. So you'll see what I mean in just a second. So like I said, to help it be a little bit less sticky, we're gonna spray my hands with non-stick cooking spray, and I'm gonna grab. I just use like a butter knife to basically like roughly divide the dough. I'm trying to divide it in, like, eyeballing it once again. We could weigh it if we really wanted to be super precise. but I'm trying to just see approximate equal balls of dough that we're going to turn into little logs here. Like I said, we're mixing, or we're doing this. I'm going to have it on hand to be able to spray my hands. And if the dough wants to come out of the bowl, then okay, there we go. I'm trying to make sure, I'll just bring all the balls of dough over. So this one's just a little bit bigger, bring a little bit over to this one. Again, just estimating it. Trying to make sure they're about the same size. Still pretty good. Okay. I think these are pretty good. I have a little bit of dough left, but I'm going to scrape out of here and pop onto a couple of the slightly smaller ones. Okay, spray my hands a little bit over here. Like my fingertips are getting a little bit sticky. Okay, so I just like to shape it. Just going to roll it out into a little log. It's going to look a little bit thin, but they do spread out. And I just kind of make it almost the size of the tray. So they, interestingly enough, don't spread out much like lengthwise, but they do get wider. So just going right like that. And then same thing, more spray and roll. Oh, thank you, Paul. It's been well with you too. Thank you so much. I can start next week. That would be amazing. I hope you can too. It's been pretty good, but I feel like it's going, like I said, just I feel like I tried to take a break, but then I kept myself too busy. So my break backfired on me, but glad to be back with some more fun content for the year. I have a lot of good plans for the year, I feel like, so I've been working on a lot of that. So I hope everybody enjoys the content. Just trying to make sure they're fairly even as we're rolling them out. All right, last one. Or at least for this flavor, then we have the other ones. These are gonna bake. Oh, let me see. I still need to preheat the oven, but we bake them 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius for about 30 minutes ish. But because I'm doing two pans, like I said, this is a double batch. Actually, I guess this is technically my single batch. This is like from the original recipe I started working from. This would be like a double batch, but I just kind of developed the recipe to have this amount because it works out. And also I get to do a couple flavors. I like to play around with the flavors, so I make sure I can have some fun every time. Okay, I think we look pretty good. Okay, so we're done with that one. Okay, wash our cloth. I can get the skin out of my way. I'm gonna do the oven now that I think about it. I definitely want to check your oven temp because mine actually runs a little bit on the cool side, so I actually sometimes bump it up to 375 instead of 350. Okay, so there. So those are our little, which one is this one? Coffee and white chocolates, Biscotti logs. And we have our next set. with our, this one is the 3 different flavors. So it's the white chocolate and the macadamia nut and toasted coconut. Technically, I haven't tried this flavor yet either because I haven't combined the flavors before. So usually they're separate, these two couple flavors. What pastry is it, by the way? I missed the intro. Oh, no worries. We're making biscotti. I make biscotti for my mom on a very regular basis because last Mother's Day, I made her biscotti as a surprise. And then since then, it's been a regular thing because she does not want to go back to, to the store-bought one necessarily. So I always make her biscotti and probably like once a month or something. It's like one of the most regular things I guess I've started to making at this point. And so we have 2 different flavors. The one that we just shaped is the toffee white chocolate. And then, like I said, this one coming up, I'm trying to scrape the bowl down so everything comes together, is our um, toasted coconut, white chocolate, and macadamia nut. No worries at all. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. I mentioned earlier, I do not have a tutorial on this yet, but with the frequency that I make these, I should probably make them at some point. Especially with how much my mom loves them. I would hope that everybody else likes them too if you try them. Okay, and like I said, I use a butter knife to just roughly divide the dough into 4 pieces. Unless you want the large biscotti pieces, then you would just do 2. Okay, once again, spray our hand down to make it easier to have things not stick so much. And grab our dough balls. See if we need to adjust. Again, if you want to be more precise, so like I mentioned, you can do a scale to weigh everything. When it comes to biscotti, I just kind of roll with it. And I have a little bit of adjusting to do. Scrape down this excess. Like I said, it's very sticky though, so there's like a tiny bit left in here and I'm trying to get out as best I can. Okay, and then I'll make sure this one looks a little bit small. Okay, I feel like they're pretty even now. Okay. That's gonna be good. Thank you. Like I said, I kind of switching up some flavors today, but I'm excited to. I always get excited trying new flavors. That's one of my favorite things. Like that's why I wouldn't be able to open a bakery because I'd like to switch things up too many times. I wouldn't be able to stick to just a list of flavors. I'd be like, nope, I'm totally experimenting today. Oop, macadamia nut slime. Okay. I'll try to kind of evenly spread them out. Like I said, interestingly enough, they don't spread this way. They always just whiten. So don't need to worry about. I like to make it close to the length of this so it can be a little bit thinner. And if you're making the larger ones, then I just do 2 logs like this. Squeeze a little bit. We just got 1 more to go. All right, as always, feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Pop them in the chat. Happy to answer them about what I'm working on or things we have coming up. All that good stuff. Okay, nice and spread out. Now I'm gonna wash my hands again. Okay. So now I'm still waiting for the oven to heat up, but I'm not going to stay on live while everything's baking because it takes like 30 minutes, maybe sometimes a little bit over. So we're not going to stay on for that because it takes too long. But basically, the rest of the process is I like to stick both pans in there, and then I just kind of like reverse them, like one's on the top rack, one's on the middle rack, and then I flip them about halfway through. And then after they're like kind of golden brown, then we're going to take them out, let them completely cool. So that also takes, 20, 30 minutes probably. And then I get a cutting board out and I get a serrated knife. And then I take each little log thing and then we cut them on a bias. So I'll show you the knife I use. This is my lovely Galaxy serrated knife. And so we just cut at an angle like this and we just go along. And this is serrated, so that cuts it a little bit nicer. So I found that like bread, like cutting bread, you want a serrated knife. So kind of similar vibe here. So we cut them on a bias. I cut them, I always just eyeball it, but it's like probably about maybe like an inch thickish. I need to measure that at some point so I have a more accurate measurement. Because like I said, I do think I want to make a video at some points, like a tutorial, not just a live or a short. So at some points I'll have that, so it'll be more accurate. But basically, we cut just all along all the little bits, and then we get out. I like to get out my big sheet cookie tray thingy. Hold on. I think it's called a cookie sheet. So it's like the really bring it up here, really really big cookie sheets. And what's really cool is that for this gigantic sheet, I just line it with parchment paper, and then one batch of this will go on one tray of that, and then we just lay them down so that the open like cut sides are up, and then we bake them. Um, let's see, same temperature. We bake them for like 12-ish minutes until it gets like a little bit golden brown. Flip them, bake them again. And like the in between process, if you try them after the first bake before you do the second bake, weirdly enough, it like is really weird, doesn't taste very good. As soon as you do the second bake and it gets like that hard kind of crustiness like a biscotti has, then it completely changes everything and it's like amazing. So it's very interesting. So don't try it on the in between stage because I've done that. It's just not the same. And of course, goes perfectly with coffee. That's how my mom loves to enjoy it. And yeah, so the second bake we do about 12-ish minutes. I think I've had to do like 15 before. But then we flip and halfway through and repeat, or actually we flip and then do another 12-ish minutes and let them completely cool. And then they are good for about a month, I think. They like last for a good while if you have them in a nice airtight container. So um, yeah, that's the gist of the biscotti. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I just made or talked about? I know it's a lot of rambling at the end, but I don't want to keep you guys on live if we're just waiting for something to bake and cool because that's like an hour of just a lot of waiting. So maybe at some point when I'm doing a baking live, if we have like a Q&A, some questions, if you guys are curious about stuff, then maybe in the future we can make that happen and do like a Q&A while something's baking. But for today, I'm not going to keep you guys on while we're waiting for things to bake and cool, but I'll stay on for like another minute or so, just waiting to see if we have any other questions before we hop off for today. This week we have our short theme is baked desserts or like dessert gifts, basically. So this actually goes really well with the theme. This one just kind of worked out that way because this is a dessert gift that I've done for my mom before. But yeah, that's what we have today. We don't have any shorts this weekend, but we have Monday through Friday of this week was all dessert gifts. So we have the last one today. And then next week, I'm doing some savory stuff. And then we have some Valentine's Day stuff coming up. So lots of fun stuff. If there's anything in particular that you really would like to see, things from last year that you want to see more of, I have had requests for more series. Possibly a like Easter series coming up. That'll be here before we know it. It feels weird to talk about Easter in January, but trying to get a lot of good planning stuff in. So if you guys want to see anything, let me know. I'm not seeing any questions come into the chat, so I think we're good on that. And like I said, I'll post some pictures later of how these turned out. Of course, how my mom enjoyed the flavor combo. Not much, but thank you so much for showing us today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day too, and good luck next week. I hope everything works out. Thank you so much for being on live. It was good to see you again. And let's see, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I think that is it for our live today. Like I said, I'll post pictures later, but thank you guys so much for being here today. And we have our next live next week, same time, same day. And I will update you guys what the schedule is coming up very, very soon. So make sure to keep an eye on that. In the meantime, I hope you have a fabulous weekend and a really great rest of your day. And I will see you soon. Okay, bye.